Hello again, welcome to beautiful Bridlington on this beautiful summer's morning, which is Monday the 16th of June, air temperature 18°, and it's currently 9:35 a.m. The Royal Yorkshire Yacht Club is now for sale. Bridlington, of course, being the lobster capital of Europe. Here are the lobster pots. What a beautiful summer's day. And we came here a couple of weeks ago, beginning of June, and it was all closed down. Terrible cold, where everybody wearing gloves, coats, and now literally a couple of weeks later you've got full-on summer temperatures. In fact, you could easily believe you were somewhere abroad in the Mediterranean. It's so warm. I'm wearing a t-shirt. It's so beautiful as well as Bridlington and Bridlington Harbour. Thought we'd have a quick look at the underpinnings again of the harbour here at Bridlington. And here we have the old sea latrine with its tidal flushing action. Not used for many decades, since the 1950s perhaps. Bridlington Crane Wharf. That wharf over there is called the Chicken Run. I can certainly remember when Bridlington Crane Wharf here was constructed in about perhaps 1958. But the Chicken Run over there, I can remember walking on that as a 2-year-old in 1950, and I think I can remember the old wooden structure. And here, of course, I've seen old photographs of all of this. It used to be a wooden structure with a lattice work that you could actually see through, which would be helpful, of course, for the sailing ships in those days to get the wind blowing through the structure. And there's some really big sailing ships back here in the day. If you went back, say, 120, 150 years, there was a regular trade from the east coast here down to London. You know how regional accents in the UK, in the north here, have tended to fade pretty much over the years. I mean, I'm from West Yorkshire, and even when I was at school, I mean, I left school in about 1964, accents were starting to change. I think brought about by hearing American television. You know, people anyway used to sort of make an effort to, a lot of people, to modify their accent. Of course, we watch so much online stuff these days. Here is Bridlington North Beach, and out there the beautiful cliffs of Flamborough Head. But about accents here in Yorkshire, I remember many years ago, perhaps 40 years ago, hearing a very old woman, she's probably about 90, and speaking in her Bridlington accent from perhaps when she was a child. It just seemed to me there were similarities between the East End of London. I could just detect overtones that were sort of similar between the two places, and perhaps that, I wonder, had a lot to do with the trade. The Ganzi statue, with Ganzi being the sweater thing there, and how some of the women allegedly seem to knit Ganzi's sweaters for the fishermen husbands there. Apparently each fish represents a fisherman's family from the past. And unfortunately the plaque is right on the bottom, you know, and unless you go down on your hands and knees you can't read it. It's a beautiful statue, and very poorly designed, I think, really. You ought to have the information about it much higher up. But it is a beautiful statue, and here we have the beauty of Bridlington Harbour. Now this old structure here, this old wooden structure, now gradually rotting away. I saw a photograph of that 120 years ago, 125 years ago, around about 1900, so it'll be 125. And there were sort of steps going up there, and a load of fishing cobbles, sort of moored. And much of these, some of these buildings are recognisable from those days. And here we have the iconic Yorkshire Bell pleasure boat still operating after all these decades. I seem to remember it was constructed in 1947, which makes it very similar to my age. Or was it 1948? You can see it's been high tide recently, perhaps a couple of hours ago. You can just see the water line there, and this sort of brown dirty water from Bridlington Harbour coming out of the Gypsy Race River at the far end of the harbour there, but also being stirred up by the very essential and important dredger, the Gypsy Race, which keeps the harbour free from mud. But here you can just see the dirty water, if you want to call it that, actually, the muddy water. I don't think there's any effluent in it these days, or not much, hopefully, anyway. You can just see it ebbing and flowing out of Bridlington Harbour and past the end of the North Pier, and you can see the clearer, bluer water out there, and you can see here, you can see the dividing line. The great wind turbines on the Yorkshire coast here, turning quite well in this stiff breeze. And out here, a mile out to sea, somewhere on one of those buoys, is the sewage outlet for Bridlington town, and a place where mackerel gather, eating plankton. That's the food cycle, of course. How it is everywhere, it's just that we don't notice it, isn't it, don't you think? This is where I stood in the last video, if you've seen it. Absolutely freezing, wearing gloves, and now just a week later it's beautiful and it's already too warm, like 10 past 10. So at this point I'll say goodbye from beautiful Bridlington. Hope to see you in the next video. Take care now, goodbye for now.